In this lesson, I'll share a concise way of viewing your chords that will help you leverage them and use them in multiple spots on the fretboard. Let's get to it. Hey, John here, and this is your Tuesday Blues, where each week we work on playing better blues through straightforward lessons. And we're going to do that today by digging into a super useful way to think of and use familiar chords. We're going to get to that bluesy little example that you just heard, but first we've got to cover some basics. Early on in my time with the guitar, I just wanted to play riffs and solos, and I didn't think much beyond that, and maybe a few chords that I needed to play through a CCR song. And it's no wonder that in spite of being able to play some good music, the fretboard confused me. It wasn't until I learned what I'm about to share with you that things really came into focus. Now, I knew my cowboy chords in the open position, and I knew power chords, but that left a gaping hole in my chording ability up the neck. Unfortunately, there are 5 chord shapes that you probably already know that you can leverage to really open things up a whole lot. Let's take a look at a C chord, then an A, G, E, and D, all right here in the open position. And if you take the chord name for each of those and spell them out, you've got the word caged. So we're talking about the caged method. It's a handy little acronym to kind of summarize what we're doing here, and it's all based on those 5 chord shapes. What do I mean by shape? Well, simply a fingering pattern on the fretboard. When you look at that, you probably know it's a C without me even having to play it. Hopefully you know those beginning guitar chords, and that's one reason why I think this method is very powerful, because it leverages something that's probably rooted very deeply in you as a guitar player. And if not, keep practicing, that's coming. But we've got this C chord shape. And so this method and what we're about to do is based on this shape. And then we can switch gears and think about this A shape, the G shape, the E shape, and then finally the D shape, as you'll see. We'll walk through each of those, starting with C. What we've got to do is take this open position, we say open because we've got some open strings here, and convert it into a closed position. So that's going to require us to a closed shape rather. That's going to require us to refinger the chord. We'll do it like this, and then our index finger becomes the nut here, right? It's kind of playing the open strings. We don't need it for that, but watch what happens if we want to move this up into C sharp. We got to drag that first finger along to the first fret, and then we've got a C sharp. All right, now the cool thing is that we can find any chord along the 5th string, and whatever note name is under our little finger here, that's going to be our chord name. So let's say we want to play an A major. Well, we can come all the way up here to the 12th fret. We know that's an A, and we can strum through, and we've got a very cool sounding A major chord all the way up there. Definitely very different than strumming along with that. And I will say that this chord shape can be a little bit difficult. It's one that you should definitely get to know, and I do want you to work on it with your little finger, but if you're having trouble with it, it can be very tricky to get that little digit to cooperate. Let it fall away, and you've still got a very usable chord shape out of that C shape. So right now, this would be, just happened to land here randomly, there's our D note. There's also a D there. So you can pay attention to wherever your middle finger is on the 2nd string, and that can be your chord sort of anchor in your mind. C shape, although it doesn't quite look like it unless you put that pinky there, but call this a C shape and know that your root's on the 2nd string. And so wherever you are on the 2nd string, so we want to go to F sharp, there's an F sharp chord right there because this is an F sharp. All right, let's move on to A. We can take our A chord here in the open position, convert it to a movable shape, and we can play anything. Here's an A sharp, B flat, depending on how you look at it. You can go up here, here's C, following with that 5th string root. Now notice the root is always, or also, on the 3rd string as well. All right, so we can keep going up and find a chord using that shape anywhere up and down the neck. Pretty cool. And if you don't feel like playing this, bar chord version of it, which is really what we've got here, is a 5th string rooted bar chord, you can also just kind of drop in, and this would be a C because here's my C, and play across strings 4, 3, and 2. Kind of like a mini version of the shape, right? So then we can move on to another one that's got a little bit of difficulty kind of built into the shape, and it's the G shape. And I'm going to play it like this. You maybe play your G chord this way or this way, but I play it like this for a lot of reasons. It's really handy as a finger picker, which sets me up nicely to kind of put my index finger down. Now that's a bit of a stretch, but even if you can't do this, just envision it. It's important to kind of get this concept. Then we've got this big G chord here, and we can move it up using that closed shape idea and bar across the 1st fret where we need to. And then we've got this big G chord shape that we can move anywhere. All right, but this one is quite obviously a little difficult. So I want to show you that you can drop these 2 fingers away and you've got kind of what we call, let's move it up into A, we would call this the long A shape. All right. And another way that we can kind of view this up and down the fretboard is like this. So we play the 3rd of the chord. Let's take it back down to G. All right, that's most of the G chord, and we can do that. And really, we just need to close that down and move it. So we can play this G shape a couple different ways, this way, or do it and drop down the little finger, or if you can do it, strum across all 6 strings with the G shape. The E shape might be the easiest one in a lot of cases for us. We can convert this to a closed shape this way, and check it out. You've got that big old 6 string bar chord. All right, and your root is on the 6th string and then also on the 4th string. So wherever you find yourself on the fretboard, if you know the note name under that 6th string, there's a B chord, C, and so on. You can play this chord anywhere up and down the neck. All right, let's have a look at the D chord shape and how we can use that, refinger it, and move it around the fretboard to our advantage. It's going to be a little bit tricky probably because this is a very, comfortable shape, probably one that you've done a million times, and now we want to try to retrain the fingers to do it this way. Although I've got a little cool hack for you as well here. But then we convert this to a closed shape, and we can move up to a D sharp. Move up to an E. Right? And we can keep going. There's F. And that same principle applies. Anywhere we put this root or the 2nd string root, we've got a chord of that name. So F. Right? And for the little hack to make this a little bit easier and more usable is to just play the D shape. Just move it up, right? And know that the chord will get its name from the note on this 2nd string. All right? So this would be an F. All right? This is really cool. And now, not only can you play chords without really moving out of position, because we could go from, a G here to a C here, for example, but now you can also play any given chord in basically 5 different ways. This is a great way to get more mileage from your average major chords. You take this and put it on your own fretboard and work it to the point where you don't have to think about the C shape. You just know that if you want a G in this part of the neck, this is it. It will start to become second nature, and you'll go there immediately over time. And it does take time, but it's one way of really opening up the fretboard. And I'm telling you, in your next acoustic strum along, try to layer in some of these shapes in different spots on the neck, and you'll sound like the smartest player in the jam circle. And if you're new to playing chords up the neck like this, then this might be enough to just chew on and study for a while. Spend some time here, it's worth it. But if you're ready for a little bit more, we can bend this method into something really bluesy. Back to our little example. use this same cage method and apply it to 7th chords for that bluesy flair. We just need to play a dominant 7th chord in a closed shape that we can move all over the fretboard instead of just a major chord. And a lot of times these 7th chords are actually a little bit easier to get under your fingers. So this is super useful, especially for a blues guitarist. We'll start by taking a look at that little piece in A and just walk you through the chord shapes that I was using. I started out here, which is a stripped down version of the E shape here. I just want to open up my 5th string. This is an A, so I want to use this 5th string open to my advantage in the bass. And then this little mini shape here, kind of looks like a D shape, but don't let that confuse you. It's really coming from this. I'm just fretting it in this way. So we started off this little thing just by playing around and embellishing a little bit, this E shape for our A7 chord. And then we kind of back down into this, right? So for a second, that looks a lot like a G shape, right? It's just an A, and this is an A major, not even an A7 yet. But when we hit this, we get into that A7 sort of sound. But it was momentary in this piece, for sure. Then we're going to slide into this shape, and that is an A shape. We're just lifting off of the root here, right? That was our A, but if we lift off of the root and expose that flat 7 sound, we've got a shape that we can move all over the place. It just so happens we want it right there in that A shape, okay? So now the next little bit, we kind of came back here, and then we moved up here. Now take a second and think about what shape that might be, all right? If you think about it, it's really the D shape, but refingered to a 7th version, and then refingered into a closed shape, and then we move the root here. That's an A note, making this an A7 chord. And then, of course, we embellished it a little bit with some finger picking. And then we went up in the next part of that little study to this area here. And we were playing out of this shape of an A7. So this is our C7 shape, but played all the way up here around A7. It just looked a little bit different, and I did add the E on top. If you're a premium member, check out the interactive tab player and the PDF and Guitar Pro tabs. But I'm going to play through this slowly for you so that you can see what's going on. See if you can spot the shapes as I move through them. So if you're keeping track, did we use the C shape? Yeah, we used it right here. Did we use the A shape? Yep, right here. Did we use the G shape? Yes, here. Did we use the E shape? Yes, here. And then the D shape. So in this little 4-bar study, we used all 5 shapes of an A7 chord, put some melody to it to have a little bit of fun, but we really practiced moving around the fretboard here with this caged method idea, but leveraged into a bluesy sound. Being able to play chords pretty much anywhere on the fretboard is a superpower on the guitar. It will help you sound different and stand out in jam sessions, help you find a certain sound when you're writing, and help you start to understand the fretboard in new and really deeper ways. If you found this useful, then click or tap right here to keep learning, and I'll see you over in the next video. Until then, practice smart and play on.